Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Second Act Actors. I'm your host, Dr. Janet McMordie, and I'm still a medical doctor, simultaneously trying to pursue a career in acting. My guest this week is Charlot Daysh. Now, I guess technically Charlotte is considered a first act actor. She's been acting ever since she was a child. However, she did go to school for journalism. She has a master's degree in journalism. She's also originally from Norway and has quite an extensive career as an actor in Norway. We go into great details about the Norwegian film industry. It is fascinating. She now lives in Canada, lives here in Toronto, and is exploring the craziness that is the film industry here in Canada. She is extremely talented, an absolute gem of a human being. I'm so excited for you to hear her story. Please enjoy the incredible Charlot Daysh. Tell me your story. You have been an actor your whole life, yes?
hmm I started very young.
Tell me all about it.
I was the kind of child that could um, sing before I could really talk and dancing very early on. And I was always very drawn to that performative aspect. And I loved watching performances. They would just mesmerize me on if it was TV or, movies or theater. I managed to let my parents make me audition. Sorry, let's start again. I was able to convince my parents to let me audition for a musical that I was too young to audition for. I was 4.5 years at the time, and the age limit was 6. And somehow the producers let me audition anyways, and I ended up getting the part. And that was my first job, like my first professional job. And I went on to acting in musicals for almost a decade. So that's how it all started for me. It was the same theater group that I kept on working with. So I just got really lucky to get in early, and I learned so much. So for me, I certainly learned by doing because, as a child, obviously they taught us a lot while we were rehearsing for the musicals and all of that. But it certainly was just kind of being to some extent thrown into it and just absorbing everything and learning as I went.
Now, did you go to theater school? Did you do formal training?
I didn't, I went to New York and did a semester there, and I did theater training there. And then I did in Norway different classes and workshops and stuff like that. But I didn't do a full degree in theater.
So when you got this musical, was that while you were living in Norway?
That was while I was living in Norway. I lived in Norway my whole life. I was born and raised there up until 4.5 years ago when I decided that I wanted to get some international experience and kind of dip my toes a little bit outside of Norway and see, what that could look like. I come from a very small town in Norway. Well, not very small, but it's relatively small. And there were just not as many opportunities there. I also lived in Oslo for a while where there is a lot of, there's a lot of stuff shooting there. So that was better for me. But I was hungry to explore more. And I've always been very drawn to traveling and, experiencing more of the world. And Canada was actually very easy to get a work permit to. So I decided to just come here for a summer. I got an agent. I flew over first and had some meetings with agents. And then I came back to Norway and thought about it, applied for my work permit, and I decided to go with one of the agents and kind of just looked at it as an opportunity to go and spend some time in a different country and kind of see where that will take me. And I never intended it to be permanent, but here I am 4.5 years later. So it goes to show I really fell in love with Toronto, with Canadians, great people, very polite and very helpful. I felt very well received here by just, in general and also in the industry. I was very lucky. I got to work a lot. And so it just kind of kept on rolling. And I just felt like, it just didn't feel right I was never like done. I just kept on extending and extending my stay. And I applied for a permanent residency, and yeah, and now this is where I'll, settle down. And I think of it in a way that I'm like kind of like bi-coastal, where Norway and Canada are my home, and I'm a little bit back and forth.
Can you take me back to when you were a kid? And I know you were 4.5 when you started, but did you ever feel from your parents a push towards a career that was not acting, because it's not, a stable career? It's not the, comfortable, logical, reasonable decision. Did you ever feel that?
You know what? I think I was lucky in that way, because my parents were extremely supportive, although they never pushed me to get into anything entertainment related. But they always encouraged me to follow my passion and my bliss. And, they were very kind of trusting in my journey. And yeah, so I didn't feel like my dad, would have said like, get a degree in something else just so you have it. And I did do that. So I did a media and communications bachelor degree. I also did a master's degree in journalism. I've done some like TV hosting and presenting as well. So it was kind of a nice combo. So that was kind of, I guess, something to always have that made me feel safer, that I could always fall back on. And I still use those skills today in my life. So it's, yeah.
I think that's such a great point about using those skills, because I think a lot of people I chat with who are, like I've dubbed the second act actors, were coming into this from a career that feels extremely distant from acting and from the arts. And I think a big thing, regardless of what experiences you've had, is that those experiences don't just evaporate and can be used in this creative career in so many ways. And I think that's so thrilling. Like, what else have you noticed, have you pulled in from just your life into now your acting career?
Well, I just love everything that you said now, because acting is really about showing humans and human behavior in the best way to showcase human experiences. So as actors, we need to go out there and experience. And I draw from everything that I've experienced in my life, really. It's one of the most important things we can do, is to go out there and put ourselves in different situations and meet with new people, new cultures, new countries, and we can draw from all of that collectively. And of course, it depends on the character, but if you have a character and you can relate something that you've experienced, I mean, that's what it's all about. You have to draw on your own experiences. And if you don't have big sight experience, you have to do some research and maybe talk to someone who have had that experience, and to figure out how that felt, and to kind of be able to come up with something that you feel could help you to portray that. But I think the general stuff is obviously heartbreak and struggles, university stuff, and I mean, there's so much.
Tell me more about the research that you do. Something that you just said, just really, I was like, oh, I'm so curious about your kind of process. So that word we always use, your process. When you feel like you can't relate to a character, or you haven't experienced it, you mentioned, doing some research. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so that might be talking to somebody who has experienced that, or just as simple as Googling it and reading about it, finding something inside of me that resembles that experience, that has like a hint of it maybe, and exploring that deeper. And obviously just, whenever I prepare for a character, it's reading the script thoroughly over and over again and taking from that as much as you can. And you can find so much in a script about your character, and even about experiences that you haven't had yourself. When you dive into that character work, like it starts to, through the script, through how the character is, you can draw some conclusions about how that experience would have felt and how it's shaped them without having directly experienced it yourself.
So I've talked to a couple other actors from Europe about the European film industry. And I know every country in Europe is different. I've talked to someone from Berlin. I've talked to someone from Copenhagen. What was it like in Norway? What's the film industry like?
It's quite different. It's very interesting to see like the similarities, the differences. Norway is less competitive. It's a smaller industry, but there's also less productions happening. And we don't have the same, I guess, like hype around agents, where it's like when I worked in Norway, I didn't really have an agent for most of the time, because you don't really need one necessarily. It's not the same like kind of build here, where it's like you have this process of like the agent submits you and da da da. There's a lot of self-submissions in Norway, and there's a lot of focus on the actor-casting director relationship. So it's all about having good relationships with casting directors, and they're much more open to, there's no like, because here between an actor and a casting director, you have the agent, but we don't have that kind of wall between. So it's more like a direct like channel to them, and, we'll email each other. And so it's that, I would say, is one of the biggest differences. And we have a union, but it's not, as big as ACTRA is. And so everything is kind of a little bit just like smaller and less kind of rigid, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Was there anything that surprised you about, I know you kind of touched on it a bit, anything that surprised you about the film industry when you moved to Canada?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind was that I knew that I wanted to get into ACTRA, but that seemed very impossible, because to be an actor, you had to book a union project, and to book a union project, you would kind of have to be ACTRA or union. So that to me was like, so how do I get in then? But then, there's always ways in, and so that whole thing for me was a little bit, I found that interesting. And the whole like, if you're union, then you can't do any non-union stuff. Like it's not as strict in Norway. So that was interesting as well. Just like, understanding how things work here, and also just how much, I mean, there's so much talent in Oslo as well, but just coming here and seeing that, there's a lot of amazing talent here too. And I found that everyone was really nice. Like it was like a very helpful industry, where I felt like people would help push me forward, and I felt just very kind of just positively surprised that I could come just like out of nowhere, and kind of be and feel like I was like kind of taken under their wings a little bit.
Mm. Did you have mentors when you came here? Like, what was that like? I'm just trying to envision, like, coming into Toronto. It almost is exactly like second act acting, right? Like, you are coming in not knowing anyone in the industry because you came from a different country. I came from not film. What was that process like to build over the last 4.5 years for you?
Yeah, you know what? I came here and I didn't really know anybody. And I was lucky because I had experienced that before. I did my bachelor's degree in Australia. And in Australia, it was the same thing. I didn't know anybody. So I just was like, I came there. I was like, hello, let me make friends. And like, so I know how to put myself out there. I know how to like try to connect with people. And I find it very thrilling too, to some extent. It's like a challenge. And I came here with kind of the same thing. You just have to be really open and I I came here just before TIFF that year, I think 2018, and I was able to. So the my roommate that I lived with, she knew an actor, and we kind of connected, and we were able to find some events to go to during TIFF, and then from there I made a lot of connections, friends, and that TIFF I just kept being invited. Like from going to one party, I was invited to another party and then another party. So I literally just like gave it my all and just like was out and talking to people the entire time. And that was really one of the things that helped set me up here. It was good timing and I was lucky, and I just have kept building on my network. And you just have to start somewhere and just build on the things that you have and just kind of one step at a time. And you don't need to like know it all or know everyone right up to bat, right? It's just about building.
I think there is a big misunderstanding. Maybe not misunderstanding is not the right word, but I think there's a big almost a fear even, I think, for those of us who have gotten into this industry later on in life, that we feel like we need to know it all now and fast because we're running out of time. Would you like, what are your thoughts on that? Because you've been so successful with your with your building of this, and you're being able to connect with people. What are your thoughts?
So there's kind of two things that pop into my head now. And it's for like the one side is that I think in general, you should always live in a way that you know, don't think that you have time. Like do it now, do it now. And that is like kind of a thing where like I just feel like in life in general, you shouldn't just be like, you know, slacking too much where you're just like waiting around. You should always be proactive and take action and kind of, you know, think that you don't have all the time in the world. But at the same time, I think we should never limit ourselves to think that we're too late or that we don't have enough time. Like you can act your whole life until you're really old. Like they need people in all types of shapes and forms. And I think that's like one of the beautiful things about acting. So I think having a sense of like urgency where it's more like you're taking action, you're driven, but not feeling like you're out of time. If you can find a balance between those two, I think that's really key. And for women especially, like I think we, you know, there's a lot of talk about like, oh, the women will be dated or whatever. I hate that. And like, I don't think that's true at all. Like, I think that, and I think I also believe in divine timing. Some people make it or like make it. Like, what does that really look like? It's a continuous journey, and you have to like continue to work hard, even if you have a few successes. But you can get, you know, a big break really late in life, and so just also trusting the timing of things while doing your best. And I think that's kind of what I've been doing personally.
When you've been like since your time in Toronto, I know you said networking is a huge part of what you did. What else have you been doing that, I mean, this is kind of an overarching question of looking for advice for people new to the industry, new to Toronto, even the Toronto film industry. What have you found has been really helpful for you and made you so successful?
Well, there's a few things that I think you need to really do as an actor. Firstly, you have to have the right mindset. You have to, as cliche as it sounds, you have to believe in yourself. You have to feel that you have something to bring to the industry. And if you don't feel that way, then get yourself to a point where you feel that way. Take more classes, or, do what you need to do to get there. And I think that's another thing, obviously, training. I started training with different studios and different teachers coming here. That's very important. I would just do my research. Who is the best headshot photographer? Go to that person and get my headshots. And how do I just really sink your teeth into it, and what I would look at actors here that were doing well and that were booking. What are they doing? How are they kind of, I don't know, so just kind of trying to figure out what works and trying to implement more of that into your own career. And going out, networking, putting together a good show reel the best that you can. You got to work with what you have and build from there when it comes to clips. So I think, mindset, headshots, show reel, training, and networking is really, really the kind of the 5 important pillars.
With networking, I know this is a thing that a lot of people struggle with because there's one, I think a lot of us are naturally introverted and use acting as our extroversion. But I think there's also, again, and we use the word fear of networking seeming insincere, and that idea of, I don't want to bother so-and-so casting director that I'm seeing over there because I don't want to seem pushy or smarmy. What have you found, or do you have any advice for people? And I wonder if it comes from, again, Nick, your hosting background, your media background. Do you have any advice for people trying to get started networking and not coming off as desperate and annoying?
Oh, I mean, it can definitely feel so daunting to talk to people and to put yourself out there. I would say for networking, if you're at an event, try to obviously go with somebody that you know so that you have your partner to lean on. And ideally, if they know someone at the party, they make introductions. I don't like to just walk up to someone and be like, hey, necessarily. Because, you don't want to come off and there's no need to do that. And I think it can be met with a little bit of, so I think getting introductions through other people in the room, and if you're talking to somebody, you can kind of build on that, and you can say, I would love to chat with so-and-so person, and maybe they know this person. Let me introduce you guys. And so I think it's all about building as well building in the room where you kind of are able to. And I think you should always be sincere with it. You should never, it should never not come from a sincere place, because if it does, I think that can easily be felt from the other person. And, I certainly can feel if something isn't sincere and it's not something I'm interested in kind of spending any time on. So I think for me, it's just a thing of I respect someone. I would love to just chat with them and not necessarily want anything from them, but just connecting with them on a level where, we're both in the industry, we're kind of colleagues maybe in a sense. And it's just about getting to know your industry better and always being of help to other people. I think we should always, as actors especially, help each other. It's a very tough industry. And so whatever I can do to help another actor, I always do, and I love doing that. I think it's very rewarding. It almost feels like a selfish act because it feels so good to be able to help somebody. And then when somebody helps me, I'm so thankful, right? And it's just, it kind of, yeah. So I think that's very important to definitely not just like take from someone. You have to give and take, and it has to be sincere.
And I think that is so key. And I have no experience with bigger markets like LA or New York, but I think it's so key for a smaller market like Toronto, and even smaller one like the European markets, for actors and entertainment industry professionals to be, it sounds so simple, nice to each other. Because if we aren't, this industry will hit a brick wall and not expand. Because we don't expand because, like, at all, if we aren't nice to each other and helping to move each other forward. And then how are we supposed to compete with the LAs and the New Yorks of the world? Like, I think that we don't get anywhere by being, like, jealous and comparing and all this stuff and just, like, not nice.
Absolutely. I completely agree. There's just no need for that in the industry, and it doesn't get you anywhere. If you're someone who's jealous of other people, you're only hurting yourself. You really are. The better thing to do is, if you see someone who is doing what you want to do, is to be happy for them and to take it as a sign from the universe that she can do this, and I'm seeing her doing this. The universe is showing me this. It means it's also possible for me. And we're not necessarily competitors. Like, every role is so unique, and the right person is going to book that role anyway. So it's like, we don't need to have that kind of like, it doesn't need to be like that.
Mm-hmm. One of the coolest things I ever learned was exactly along the vein like what you said about the right person will get the role. So if you don't get the role, it means that you were not obviously that you weren't the right fit, and the movie would not have been as good. And it doesn't, and it's this interesting kind of almost like negative being a positive, where I kind of now have said, yeah, like, we want Canadian films and films made here to be as best as they can be. If I book the role, it's going to make that movie so good. But if I don't and someone else does, it's because she or they are the thing to make that movie that much better, and I'm not. And that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually great.
Yes, exactly. So whatever is best for that project, right? Like, wanting whatever is best for that project, and however that looks, and trusting that, the right parts will find you. And I think just not being so kind of like desperate about it, like having other things in life that inspire you and that fulfill you, and not feeling like acting is the end all be all, because I think that puts a lot of pressure on a person. It's an extremely difficult industry to make it in, and most people don't. And yeah, it's just a lot of pressure to put on yourself to say that, like, I have to make it as an actor or else. I think that you can define yourself as an actor, but it shouldn't be like the end, like I said, the end all be all. Like, you're a human being. You have other passions and interests that are just as worthy and beautiful, and just kind of having more of like a relaxed thing about it, where you're obviously always doing your best, but not being so hard on yourself.
And I think that is where, so I think a lot of us put pressure on the acting to be the financial, to rid ourselves of the financial stress of life. And I think that's where I think it's important to have, I hate the whole like side hustle, side gigs or whatever, that I think hustle culture is pretty detrimental, especially for women. But I think if there's a way to take financial pressure off acting, and I don't want to speak for everyone, but this is speaking for me, if I can take the financial pressure off booking and saying, booking this commercial, I don't need it to pay my bills, that for me frees up the creativity and takes that load of bricks off my back and allows it to be more playful and more fun. And I know
absolutely.
People, like, they can't do that. Acting needs to be the be-all, end-all, and that's fine. But yeah, it sounds. Are you the same? Is that similar to you?
Well, I think it's very important to be in a secure financial place and to not, to have acting as the only source of income, unless you're, at the top, is probably very almost impossible, right? And unless you're booking very, very consistently, that's not a good idea. Like that could be pretty bad for somebody, right? You have to set yourself up in that aspect too. I run a media agency. When I'm not acting, I run that agency. I have a team that helps me so that it doesn't take away from my acting. And I think that's key, to find something that is also a source of income that doesn't take away from what you can accomplish as an actor and how much you can give to that part of your life. I think that is key. So that has worked really well for me. I also do a bit of songwriting. I sing here and there. And so you have different sources of income, and I think that's very important. And I certainly encourage actors to do that. And like you said, take that pressure off.
Do you have any favorite moments on set, on stage, from your time as an actor?
Oh, so many. I feel like and stage is my happy place. And I love every second of it. I really do. It's hard to pull out some moments. There's been so many. I feel like there's just this magical thing about being on set for me. And it just makes me feel so alive. And yeah, it's not even just like when you're actually doing the scene. It's like everything just coming to set, like hair and makeup, like running lines, like all of it. I would say though, when I was in Norway, there was a soap opera there. It was Scandinavia's longest running soap opera, and like the whole of Norway watched it, and my grandparents especially were like huge fans. And then it was like such a magical thing that happened, because I just got a phone call from the production offering me like a part in the soap opera. And I just I couldn't believe it, first of all. And then it wasn't a huge part, but it was significant. And I had lines, and it was a recurring guest star. And I just remember coming on set, and I just felt like, I think that was definitely one of the moments that was like the biggest for me, because it just felt like such a gift from the universe. And then, because I was also just thinking about like how my grandparents would feel when they saw me in it, and just seeing their faces when I told them, like, I will never forget that. It was like the most beautiful thing. And it was just so, like, the whole thing was very meaningful to me. So yeah, they were very proud, and it was just it was a blessing.
That is so special. And then the cool thing I love about film and TV is that it exists in the world for eternity. And you have that story, and you have the footage, yes, but like that story and that connection with your family and your grandparents, and that gives me just the best warm fuzzies.
Yes.
Oh, that's so nice. Is there anything you're looking forward to coming up this year?
I have recently joined ACTRA, finally. It took a little while to get in. So
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So I'm really looking forward to this new chapter in my career, and it just feels amazing. I'm excited to to audition for more union stuff. I still auditioned for union before, but it's just a different kind of thing now. And yeah, so I'm excited for that.
Awesome. And any cool projects coming up?
Yes, I have 2 films coming out this year that I did last year. So the first film I did was Finding Odera by Charles Daysh, and it's a beautiful love story that takes place in Toronto and Lagos, Nigeria, that kind of brings together the best of both worlds. And I had so much fun filming this movie. I got to experience more of the Nigerian film culture, and Nollywood is a huge industry in Nigeria, and I learned Nollywood, yeah. I know, it's amazing.
Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah, it was so fun, and we literally had like all these Nigerian tunes on set, and it was very like flowy, and like it was a different type of experience. So that will be coming out this year, and then in the fall, I did a thriller called Cry of Silence by Alan Cool, and that was such an incredible experience. Loved it. Was very immersive. We shot the whole thing in St. Mary's. They rented out a whole hotel there, which we all stayed at for the entirety of the filming, and we got like so close in that time. It was like I felt like I was at like a camp. It was so much fun. We had a karaoke machine in the lobby, so sometimes after like a long day on set, we would come back and do karaoke, and it really brought us together and like helped release stress, and it's a really empowering story, and I'm so excited for everyone to get to experience it. And I'm so honored to have been a part of both these projects, and they were certainly gifts from the universe as well. I was offered both these parts, so I think that, you know, having to not, because auditioning can be so like daunting, and I think that when a director shows you that kind of trust, that they feel comfortable having seen what you've done before, and obviously having talked to you, that they would put you in their movie and trust that without seeing an audition. I just feel like that is, to me, that when someone gives you that level of trust, it was just the best feeling, and I always give it my all. But these 2 movies were very special to me for that reason. And so I'm really excited for the release of those.
Oh my gosh, congratulations. Those sound like incredible projects. Wow. I'm so thrilled for you. That's so exciting.
Thank you.
No, were one of those your union credit? Are you allowed to talk about what you booked union?
Yeah, no, they were both non-union. So I think that's also why I feel like I trust like divine timing, because if I had gone into the union earlier, I would not have done those 2 leads in those 2 movies, and I think that I would have never wanted to be without them. So I think there's a reason for everything. The union project was a film, Stealing Vows, and that's another movie that might be released this year or next year, hopefully. So it's still in post-production, but that's also an incredible project that I'm very, very excited about. And I play a singer in that movie, so and that's kind of what helped me book the part, because I had that skill, and I remember, you know, years ago, someone or a few people told me that if you can do something different, like if you can sing or if you can play an instrument, like that's something that can get you into the union. And it's like a competitive advantage that will that can help you book one of those projects, because they're looking for something specific, like someone who can sing and play the piano, for example, but who can also act and fits the part. And then it's easier for them to justify why they need to bring on someone who is non-union.
Yes.
But that movie I did years ago. And then, yeah, that movie I did years ago. And I ended up not initially getting the union credit for it because my PR card, permanent residency, was still processing, and it was delayed quite a bit because of COVID. So I was devastated at first. And then I eventually was able to have more talks with ACTRA, and also because of my Norwegian membership to the union there, they when I got my PR card and when I kind of went back to them with everything, they said that they would accept me.
I won't get on my soapbox about the union. I'll cut this part out, but oh my God, it's so stupid. It's so restrictive, and I don't understand why. I don't.
Yeah, I felt a little bit
sorry.
impossible for a while. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you have any final words of wisdom or advice?
Ooh, I would just say take care of your mental health, because as an actor, you're going to deal with a lot of rejection. It's better to just get used to it and to not take it personally, and to just build yourself up on a daily basis. And taking care of yourself physically, mentally, and spiritually will greatly benefit your career. Acting is much more than just having the skill of acting. It's a business. So also having a bit of that business mindset and kind of looking at it as a collection of things that needs to be in place, and trying to do your best in all the aspects that you need to be making progress in, I think is very important. To not just like, for instance, like, don't just take acting classes and think that that's going to be what gets you to where you want to be. Like, do all of the things collectively, and don't even sit there and wait for your agent to always give you auditions or auditions. You need to be proactive. You need to take charge of your own career, and go out there and try to find projects yourself and connect with people, and work alongside with your agent. Like, you're a team here, and it's not just for them to submit you for stuff. There's so much more to it than that. So help your agent out like they're helping you out.
Such good advice. I remember somebody saying to me, and it makes so much sense, your agent makes on average 10% commission. So you need to do 90% of that. The work that you have to do is 90%. They shouldn't be doing that. They're doing the 10% of the work of you as an actor. You need to do 90%. They get 10% of the commission. You get 90%. So put in 90%.
Put in 100%, 110% as an actor. I feel like unless you really give it your all, like, it's not gonna, like, it's too competitive. It's too hard. Like, if you're not willing to give it your all, I would say don't give it anything. Then it's not going to be worth it for you. And when you get that audition from your agent, you take that seriously, and you really give it your all, and you deliver. We have so little control as actors, but so that's why it's really important to control what we actually can control. We can control the audition that we deliver. So focus on that. And once you've delivered it, there's no need to worry about it. Like, you're just releasing it to the universe. Whatever happens, happens. It's out of your control. And if you get it, amazing. If you don't, that's totally fine. That's a stepping stone. You're building a relationship with the casting director. And every audition is an acting class, right? It's like training for you. So just always trying to find the positive in things, and looking at them in a constructive and optimistic way.
Thank you everyone for tuning in, and thank you, Charlotte, for being my guest this week. Now, I know she's had in the, 6-8 months since we recorded this episode, she has just exploded. Like she said, she's joined ACTRA, our union here in Canada. I know her movie Cry of Silence had its premiere, which is so exciting. Oh, Charlotte, I'm so excited for 2024 and all the incredible things it's going to bring you. Thank you again for being my guest. I hope you will all tune in next week for another episode of Second Act Actors. Bye!